I tried to get... Oh, don't even worry about it. It's... Yeah, we know. I remember you had diabetes, though, because I got the zero sugar. I didn't know if that... Okay. Cool.
Not necessary, but actually it's not.
Yeah.
The carb count for it.
Yeah, I didn't want you to have to, like, balance your stuff, you know? I was like...
You should have answered that scam call on camera.
That would be good. Yeah.
What do you use?
I'm not necessarily like a major hand with scam calls, though. I don't really say anything. It's like...
I just get annoyed.
I used to have an error. I had an error where I would like meme them so much.
I have some buddies who are pretty funny with scam calls.
Yeah. I'll choose it. I'll have someone tell me what race they want, and I'll do the most like butchered accent possible for it. And then I'll say stuff that's so dumb. They're like, I had this one person call about my windshield, just like that. And I, in a really bad Indian accent, I told her I drive an ATV. And she just kept trying to convince me I had a car. I just kept telling her I didn't have one. I didn't have a windshield.
It's funny, the last podcast I recorded, I brought my sister instead of him. And I actually interviewed my girlfriend right now.
Nice.
And, which I wouldn't, like, it was good, you know. I was like, in my head, I was like, might be a little strange, but it was fine. But they're friends, and so Mikkel, like, kept on talking. Like, she kept talking during the podcast, and I was like, dude, you're not Mike. So no one knows what's going on.
Nobody's any idea.
Yeah. But, how did we even get on? Oh, the scam call. The scam call. Yeah, have you guys seen the one where they'll call and then they don't say anything? It's like...
Oh, yeah. That happens to me all the time.
Yeah, I don't know what that's about.
They're hacking you. They're currently tracking your location. I know they can't hear me, but it's okay.
Okay.
You guys can hear me.
You're not mic'd up, so you're done. Okay, so what's new with you, Will? You just went to Washington.
Just went to D.C., checked out a bunch of cool stuff. Did like touristy stuff, but also did some more like political tourist stuff. Like we went and saw the House of Representatives, which was in session. Went to the House floor, watched them vote on some stuff. It was cool. Kind of, I don't know. It was neat because the guy I went with had some connections.
Yeah.
In DC. And we didn't do anything. It was like really like anybody could do it, but you just have to know that it's available. Like
right.
The office of your senator and the office of your representative, right? And you can ask for they're called gallery passes.
Oh, that's cool.
Let you into the floor for the Senate and stuff. So we went to like Mark Kelly's office.
And that's like anybody?
I think it like I don't know exactly how it works, but he like called ahead and was like, "Hey, can we do this?" And they're like, "Yeah, come on in." And so
okay.
Like, the next week we were there. We just walked in. It was like, "Hey, we called before."
You just kind of have to know the guy.
Yeah, we just call their office because we actually didn't even talk to the rep or the senator.
Yeah.
We just went in and like their intern people at the front desk were like, "Oh, here's some gallery passes." And you go in, they like you can't take anything in. Like they like take your phone, your smartwatch, whatever, put it in a box.
Oh, really?
I did actually end up getting because of the way the security was set up and how quickly it went through it and stuff. I ended up bringing a Pop-Tart. You're not supposed to bring any food, but I have a Pop-Tart that's stuck in the house floor, so I could have been munching on that. I didn't eat it.
Hey, dang.
But we got it through pretty much every security checkpoint in DC. I got it into the.
You could just said you're like diabetic. I feel like they would have had to.
Yeah,
you're like, sorry, I have to have
I
this.
got some fruit snacks in through the security checkpoint that way. I was like, actually, because that's why I had them. I was like, hey, these are for low blood sugar. You can take them, but that's why I have them. Like,
yeah. You're like, hey, if something happens, I'm suing you. So.
Yeah. just so you know.
Just so you know, if this goes south.
Like the Supreme Court, they're like, oh yeah, you can't have any food, and then somehow they like didn't take the Pop-Tart and. So I got that Pop-Tart everywhere, into the Pentagon. I got it into the...
Did you guys go to the Pentagon?
Yeah, we went to the Pentagon.
That's pretty sweet. Yeah,
you can get little tours. There's not a whole lot to the Pentagon tour because there's not a whole lot they can show. It's just kind of like military history.
Yeah.
you
Did the Pentagon
get on the
get
History
one
Channel.
of those planes through it? It was like Twin Towers and Pentagon,
It did,
right?
yeah. So like a big part of the tour actually is they have a memorial inside the Pentagon and then also one like in like a little park green area right outside the Pentagon. And they showed us like this is where it went down. This is like the area that got damaged. And I think it was... Could get this wrong, but I think the majority of the fatalities were from the naval branch of the military.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Like, was that the section
That was like
the
the section of the building it hit. So like there was significant casualties in like all branches, right? But there was like the most,
right?
Yeah, because it was like almost 200 casualties, and then like, I mean, including the people on the plane and in the Pentagon, right?
Have you heard that theory about like that some people think that the plane never hit the Pentagon?
I have not heard that theory.
Yeah, I don't know a lot about it, but that's like something I've heard. I think everyone knows it hit the two towers. I think that one's pretty well documented.
I don't know if I'd believe that one that was after going to the memorial, because like it has all the names, and they were telling stories of specific people who were like on the plane and this and that in the Pentagon. They're like, oh, this person, this was their story. Like the tour, like he's a tour guide, but he's like a actual like member of the military. So he's like a little more than a tour guide, but he was like talking about the memorial and like showed us all the stuff and was telling stories of people. Like there's this one lady who like. I wish I could remember what he said. It was one of the ones that said he was stuck out to him, but she was like on the plane. She wasn't supposed to be on that plane, but she was going to go home early.
Oh, okay.
And so she was like about to. She didn't end up texting her husband that she was getting on the plane because she was going to go on one later, but she like got done like a day early or something, and then I could get the story wrong, but essentially she went down, and then like for a couple of days he had no idea where she was. They're like, he's like, why isn't she back? And then he like calls the people she was with. It's like a business trip or something.
Yeah.
No, he was just like, where is she? Like, she's gone, you know? And then after a while, they're like, oh, wait a minute, she was on this flight. That's the flight that went to the Pentagon. Yeah, super sad, so.
That's tough when it's like, imagine being that, like, person who's like, oh, shoot, like, I could have been on that later flight, but I picked that.
Yeah, that's, I don't, yeah.
Wrong pick.
Yeah, it was crazy, but it was interesting. They actually have quite a bit of the Pentagon. There's a good section of it where it's like memorials and like things that people have made, like to remember 9/11. So
do they patch up the hole, or did they?
Oh yeah, it's functional now. Okay, it's not like a. So they have like
they just left a section.
There's like in the section where the plane went down, a lot of the hallways had these like quilts that were like made by different like school kids and this and that and the other and stuff that people have donated. And then inside they have like an area that has like all the names and then like a thing you can write. You can read some people's stories and then like has different artistic things that like symbolize different stuff. And then outside they have these like benches, and on each bench it has the names of the people the fatalities. Or I guess maybe there's a better word than fatality, but the casualty. I don't know.
No, fatalities. I think that's
something like
accurate.
That. And then I guess there's something. It's like the plane went down right at like it's like 9:37 or 9:47.
Yeah. And
there's water running underneath all the benches, and it stops running on that hour, like 9:37 a.m. And right on that minute. And then they also don't have any flights flying over at that time too.
Okay.
With air traffic control, so it actually is like every day there's a moment of silence that's like actually silent for like
a no-fly zone moment. Yeah. Okay, that's
kind of interesting.
Cool.
Yeah. So
is the memorial like built where the crash took place, or is it a separate building off to the side somewhere?
No, it's like it's part of. So the part that's in the building is actually inside the Pentagon.
Oh, okay.
And it's like right next to the spot where the plane went down. He's like, see that stop sign? That's where the plane stopped. And we went down the hall. He's like, look at this, look at this, look at this. Yeah. And he's like, right here, this is where the plane actually entered.
Oh.
And it's like,
that's crazy.
It's some distance. Like, it's crazy.
So it really went through.
Yeah, and then like right next to that is the inside memorial, and then you can look out the window and see. Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah. So
that's pretty cool. Yeah, I don't know. There's some like interesting things that, like with the 9/11 stuff, you like some of the theories behind 9/11.
No, yeah, I have not looked into those. I have no idea.
It's interesting because like I read some stuff about like there's like connections between the Bin Laden family and the Bush family, and like also the like stuff with the CIA and wanting to like go. Like, you know, because they talk about the military, like, complex. What's it called? The military blah, blah, something complex. Anyways, it's the military, right? Okay. But I think it's all the, like, the contractors that work with the military to provide weapons and all that stuff. And obviously, during war times, they get bucos rich because everyone's making money.
A lot of jobs, yeah.
A lot of jobs, a lot of weapons, a lot of resources.
Supply and demand.
Yeah. Military... Industrial complex, that's the word.
Okay.
Yeah. And so they were talking about how, like, the connections between the Bush family, the Bin Laden family, and, like, I think they, like, had met each other or something. I don't know if, like, you know, the Bin Laden that ran the terrorist organization, I don't know about that, but there was, like, a bunch of I wish I had a way we could look this up, but yeah, there was, like, some connections there, and they, like, both were in the oil industry, and then something with the CIA and, like, the planning of that, which... Now, granted, like, I don't know how realistic it is, like, how truthful it is, but there's been, like, stuff that's come out. Like, have you seen any of the stuff with the, like, JFK?
Oh,
that stuff's pretty crazy.
Yeah. 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 I know, because we actually, when we were at Arlington Cemetery going through, and we went to, like, the Eternal Flame, JFK's memorial, one of my buddies who went on the trip was talking about a book he read called like Killing Kennedy or something like that, and like has a lot of context to the whole JFK thing. And it was kind of wild. Not gonna lie. Yeah.
Well, they released a bunch of files. Like the how the government's been like releasing files because there's like a certain amount of time they can keep information secret. I don't know what the timestamp is on that, but anyways, they like released files on the JFK like assassination, and like almost everybody is like 95% sure it was like a CIA assassination, like hit job on him, because he wanted to get rid of the CIA. That was what he wanted. He was like, let's get rid of it. Yeah, he wanted to disband CIA and a bunch of other things, and so. But yeah, it was crazy. Like, I wish I knew more of the details of the story there. But there's probably like a ton.
I've
of
heard
videos.
some crazy theories, like he had some sort of connection to the mob and stuff, and I was like,
oh, JFK.
Yeah.
I wouldn't. Be
I don't know, some wild theories. I don't know what are true. I haven't looked into it. Not that I could even like. I mean, what am I going to find that's like legit? Who's to say? Like, there's too much misinformation out there.
There was I think there's a Tucker Carlson episode when he was on Fox. He did like a whole episode on that, which I'm not saying like that's the most reliable source, but if it's running on Fox, it's probably more reliable than some sources.
I don't know.
Anyways, but that was pretty crazy. But yeah, I think isn't his nephew's running for office now?
Something like that, yeah. I don't know what the relation is, but yeah, he's like Robert Kennedy.
Yeah, Robert F.
He's like,
Kennedy. It's his like brother's son, I think.
That would make sense.
Because because JFK got assassinated, right?
Right.
But then his brother got assassinated too.
It's true, yeah.
And
he's actually buried next to him, like a little bit on the other side of like a couple of trees, but
which that's also sus.
No, there was like I'm pretty sure there was like a
Kennedy family just getting wiped out.
Well, that was actually that is a pretty big conspiracy. That was like, especially when they were all getting assassinated. Like a lot of people were like, "Wait a minute, is there a curse here? Is there like a reason that like people are going after him?" Kind of crazy, not gonna lie. But
the latest one that I heard was about the Watergate scandal and how that was actually like an inside job. So Watergate, right? Nixon was president, and then the story behind that was that his members of his cabinet or whatever broke into the Watergate like office building, which was where the Democratic National Convention, they had like some of their stuff. So they broke in trying to like, I don't know exactly what they were trying to do, but mess with something with the election, right?
Political espionage, yeah.
And so they found out, that was released, and then they blamed Nixon, and then he stepped down.
Resigns, yeah.
Which what I heard was that, and I'd have to like confirm this, but Nixon apparently was like one of the most popular presidents in U.S. history. Now he's not, because people view him as a bad guy. But then, like,
yeah, he had like a following.
Yeah, as far as like votes go, like Democratic votes, like he had, I think if not the most, like one of the like highest votes out of any U.S. president, like from voters,
like percentage.
Yeah, like
interesting
popular votes.
Yeah, I didn't know that. That's cool.
Yeah. And so, but they were saying that the guy who wrote the article, like, kind of exposed this whole Watergate scandal. I don't remember his name, but he's like a famous journalist now, and he was kind of known for being the guy who like blew the whistle on the Watergate scandal. But apparently, this guy, and the article came from the Washington Post. That's who like blew the whistle on this Watergate scandal. But this guy, before he was a journalist, he was a naval intelligence officer working in the White House. And this guy, when this story came out about the Watergate scandal, he didn't even like he had never been a journalist before because he had been a naval intelligence officer. So he had no like journalistic experience. But here he is like writing the number one story, like getting the number one story that the Washington Post will probably like ever put out, right, about this scandal. Which in journalism that's kind of rare. Usually you have like your, it's kind of you work your way up, right? Yeah. And I think it's Bob Woodward is his name. Yeah.
Okay.
And but anyway, so that was kind of odd, right? Like, why is this guy who is a brand new journalist, why is he like writing the lead story that's going to like blow the whistle on this, getting this president like, kicked out of office? But anyways, as you start digging, you realize he was a naval intelligence officer working in the White House, and he was working with, there's another guy in this kind of mix, and he was the head of the FBI. And then when you look at it too, there's I think it's like public documentation. Like you can look it up online that like 7 out of the 9 or something people who broke into the Watergate office worked for the CIA. And so when you start to look at it, it's like, okay, like, so the guy who blew the whistle at the Washington Post, a brand new journalist, he worked in the White House as a naval intelligence officer in coordination with the FBI. And 7 of the 9 people who broke into the Watergate office were CIA. And then that Bob Woodward just happens to decides to be a journalist at the Washington Post and blows the whistle. So anyways, it's really interesting, like the whole connection between the fact that like this main guy who was like this deemed a hero who wrote this paper about, or like blew the whistle on it, was actually working inside the White House at the time. So it's just like funny when you start like hearing these things that are kind of common knowledge that you think like, oh man, like we've like always known, like, okay, Watergate was this or 9/11 was that, and maybe I spent too much time listening to different, conspiracies, but it's interesting nonetheless.
Who's to say, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, things you ask God when you die. Like,
Yeah,
so.
Yo, what happened here?
Was this like? I just want to know what like actually happened.
I think the conspiracies are always a little more fun. It's a more fun story.
Yeah,
than the
I
real
mean,
one.
it's something to like. Something to chew on for sure. You
Yeah.
know, like if you know what something is, like a lot of times it's like, oh well, that's just what it is, right? But
Yeah. So did this trip perk your interest in a potential political career?
oh no,
I feel like you got that vibe. Like if you ran for something.
I could be a politician.
Yeah, I'd vote.
You vote for me?
Yeah, I
Appreciate
think
it.
so.
I got 1 vote, maybe
Yeah.
maybe two.
I think you got more than. Yeah, I see.
No,
you
I
too.
just to say, the thing of it is, I don't know at this stage of my life that I particularly think I'd like to be a decision maker for that many people.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Like, because I'm making more and more like executive decisions in my own personal life and
Sure.
helping people make decisions in their life, like who are close to me, right?
Yeah.
If they ask my advice or,
Like what?
I don't know. It's like me and all my siblings are all kind of growing up, and like my brother just got into medical school, and so he's been like through the application process there. So like we talk a lot about that, and my little brother's coming back from his mission, trying to decide what he's going to do for school.
Yeah.
My little sister's graduating.
Are you the oldest?
I'm second.
Second. Okay.
Second to 4.
Okay.
Yeah, my older brother's married. He's going to go to Michigan State Medical next.
Well,
He starts in the fall,
that's
so
fine.
he moves up there, up to Lansing in like 3 weeks.
Nice.
So, but like just between that and then like all my roommates are all kind of like making decisions. A lot of my buddies are getting married, so it's like we have these conversations and stuff, and then it's like, dang, these are like some real decisions. And then like it has piqued my interest, I will say, in like looking into political things and like seeing what's actually out there, because I didn't expect, like I went to the House of Representatives, I was like, this is really cool. This also looks like a PTA meeting. Like
Yeah, right.
it's like, and then like you consider the fact that you really can't, there's so many people in like who will benefit from one decision being one way or the other way, that's like you really like you can't please. A lot of times I feel like you can't even please the majority. Maybe that's wrong, but it's like since there's so many different ways you could take a policy, right? It's gonna benefit somebody and it's gonna not benefit or be pretty neutral to the majority of people, right? So it's like it's tough. And then also like on the way home I was watching this like, and it had a pretty strong bias in it, but there's this expository documentary called The Inside Job about the '08 market crash, right?
Yeah.
And exposing like all these people that were like inside of the deregulation era from like the 80s to the modern day. I guess the movie was made in like 09 or 10. So like from that 30-year span, talking about how people who are controlling, I guess, the U.S. economy and are making regulations for it or deregulating kind of like set us up for failure in that sense. And like, I forget what my point is. But anyways, like I was just like looking at that and seeing how like, and I guess this is tied into the other thing. I've been reading Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Yeah.
Right. And it's talking about how like taxes were set up to like take from the rich to feed the poor, Robin Hood mentality.
Right.
But then like the way it turns out is like they're adding more tax, and then it ends up trickling down to like the lower end. But then the higher end, like you can use all these different vehicles to legally avoid tax. Then it ends up being, it just shoves it onto the lower end.
No,
so like there's just so much going on. It's like you really can't control it. Like I honestly don't think the president can do that much. Like
no,
it's everybody involved with the president that makes the decisions, and then the president just like has the stamp and the signature, right, and like gives the speech, but like even like speech writers, like he's not even writing his own speeches a lot of the times, right? So it's, I don't know, like there is, and this isn't like necessarily like trying to be like a downplay, but it's like I honestly just like the president is a figurehead because there is so much you have to do that one person couldn't actually do it. You can't have that like George Washington guy who's just like him, that Abraham Lincoln who's like the only reason that the Union like made it all the way through, right? He's like, there's too much going on now for that to be the case. You can't just like have one dude who just makes it happen. So I don't know.
When you get a lot of people who are in there, like I don't know if you call them career politicians because politicians, hopefully, right? We vote them in, vote them out, things like that, but everyone else who works inside the government, you know, they're there regardless of who the president is, right?
Yeah.
And so, you know, they're going to be there when he's there, and they're going to be there when he's not there. And so, I have a friend who he's done a lot of stuff in politics, and like when I say friend, he's like way older than me. He's like in his 50s, so like not like a buddy who just like, you know, he's like done stuff in politics.
Yeah, he's got some experience.
Yeah, like he's hung out with. You know, I think he did sign in the Republican, like, National Convention or something like that. So, anyways, so he's got a bit of an experience there. And he was just talking about how, like, a lot of people in, you know, like, and he was talking about, I think he was talking about President Trump's administration specifically. And so he was saying how in working with President Trump, Trump came in and was like, hey, I want this done, right? He was, like, telling him, hey, this is how I want it done. But unfortunately, like people in his direct group or cabinet or administration, they'd be like, "Oh yeah, that's great. We love that idea. Awesome. Yes, good job, President Trump. Love it." And then they're like, "Yeah, we'll just draw this one out. We're not gonna, you know, because
they're gonna push it through." Yeah.
Right. And then you know, when they come back around to it, it's like, "Hey, why did we miss this deadline? Oh, well, it was, you know, this, that." And, you know, it's like any bureaucratic system.
Right. Yeah.
Right. And a lot of it there is you know, for them, what's the motivation? We're not going to go anywhere. That, you know, this is just another guy coming in, you know, just like the past 4 ones that we've had, you know.
Oh, yeah.
And so a lot of things get stalled and don't move because there's a lot of bureaucracy who it's like, what motivation is there for them to move that forward? Mm-hmm. And so I think that's a lot of it is like, you know, and you can't fire everybody, you know. You know, they have to have people to operate and do, and so I think you're right. It's like there's so many levels to it. It's like how effective can you really be at making movement? And then, you know, every political person or party has a different, you know, thing that you have to motivate them by. I guess the best way to put it. They have their own interests.
Yeah,
I guess it might be the proper way to say that.
That's true. I was having a conversation with my buddy.
Yeah.
So this is after the trip. We were actually talking about this trip. I went to D.C., but he wasn't on the trip, a different friend.
Yeah. And
we were talking about, he's like, because his family leans a specific way in politics, right?
Which way?
I don't want to say too much, but so his family leans a specific way.
Yeah.
And he was talking about how he's like, I agree with them and like I lean that direction, but at the same time, like I don't, and obviously like. We're not on the fringes. We're like middle-class American white boys who have easy lives, right? Yeah. But it's like my life isn't that much different.
Nah, dude, I'm from... I'm just kidding.
My life isn't that different administration to administration, right? Like, there's some people who are like, I guess, with different legislation, severely affected by Donald Trump, by the Obama administration, by the Bush administration, the Biden administration, whatever you want to say. But like, at least for us in our lived experience, in our you could call it sheltered life, right? Like as college students, like our life isn't that much different depending on who's president.
Right.
And then we're trying to talk about like, is that because it doesn't really matter? And then we were like, maybe that's not the issue. But as much as like the president could matter, but it's the fact that the administration, like a lot of all this like infrastructure of people and bureaucracy and all this stuff doesn't change that much.
Right.
And the fact that it's like maybe you have like a left-leaning president, but what the president does is often like connected to like what everybody in the U.S. is leaning on the president, their direction, right? And saying, hey, go do this, hey, go do that, hey, go do this. And if he comes in with like a right mentality or left mentality, he might like, stick his weight this way or that way. But at the end of the day, it's going to be an amalgamation of everybody putting their money and force into like their political ideals, and then that's going to end up with the same result.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, the president
or
does
a similar
does
result.
bring in his own cabinet, some of his own administration, so they do have the power to like move certain things in certain directions, and that's where I think you see a lot of times, like right off the gate, when Trump entered office, he did the the pipeline deal, which like allowed us to start drilling oil and decrease gas prices, which I guess that's probably, if anything, general American people, the things that they're most affected by, probably like what, gas prices, tax, housing industry, where's that at, the economy, so those things, and then is our public safety at good, right? That's probably the biggest things that everyone's affected by. But yeah,
I agree.
I mean, as far as like, so when the president comes in, has his own administration, like that executive order, like let's open the pipe, let's get our own oil going, let's start doing our own natural fuels and stuff like that, so that we can lower those prices. We don't have to go out and buy them. And then when Biden came in, he shut that pipeline down like right away. That was like one of the first things when he came into office. So, and he has whatever his reasons are for that. I think some of it aligns with some of the environmentalist principles of we don't want to hurt our environment, which to me, I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. But whatever. And then I'm sure there's other reasons he had. We obviously don't know all the reasons, but so I think that's part of it, right? So they can come in, make some executive orders, they can change a few of those things. But yeah, as far as like big change, as far as like really drastic things, I mean,
the kind of stuff they're putting into their political campaigns.
Yeah, some of the big promises, I think those are at times difficult to accomplish because of you have so many levels of bureaucracy that you're working through to get it done, and then you're trying to that's one of the perks of the government, though, I guess, is that like every state has its own state government, that you can't just federal government can't just come over the top and jump on top. Texas, that was the thing with Texas, and they put up fences for the border because I think they were just like, we are not going to have more of these immigrants coming in, because that's become a big problem where they've just let that open. And the weird thing too is it's not even like necessarily just like Hispanics and the Mexican people. It's like I think like a third of them are like Chinese, like middle-aged Chinese people, which is a little alarming,
Well, I mean, I don't know what's necessarily like the demographic of all that, but if you are trying to get in, like it would only make sense to go through whatever's the easiest access point, right? So like if that is the case, then I mean, I don't blame them. That's if I was trying to get in, that's in that way, it would make sense that you go for the weakest link, right?
Yeah, the weird thing I've heard is like people get nervous with some of these foreign governments, like China, or especially where they're like superpower governments, where they're not just like I don't think anyone considers Mexico a superpowered like government. They're not super industrial. We're not buying tons. Like China's a big industrial, capitalistic, communist country. Russia would be another example of that. Although I don't know where they really sit on the playing field now. I think they've they're wrapped up in quite a bit of stuff.
Couldn't tell you, yeah.
But yeah, like so when you see a bunch of like these Chinese immigrants coming through, it's like, why is this superpower that we're kind of in good relations with, sort of? Why are they all coming through? It's kind of interesting, but
yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I have no idea either.
Interesting.
Yeah, but hey, maybe you're the guy to fix it.
Oh, I don't see myself as a politician.
No. Well, that's what we need. That's the perfect case scenario.
The people who don't see themselves as politicians making decisions.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess under that ideology, I'd be a great candidate, but I don't know if one. There's probably way too much random stuff that I've forgotten that I've done in my life that would come up, and I'm like, oh dang it! Like I didn't even know. I forgot I did that.
Yeah.
But between that and then also just decision making, I don't know. I'll say this in like data science, which is like my preferred field. There's like sometimes you're like the concept, if you get more data, you can more accurately predict the actual model.
Sure.
You ever heard that idea where it's like you're trying to figure out the relationship between two things, and if you have more, it's like estimation uncertainty versus prediction uncertainty, right? And so you can find the best model to predict something using more and more data.
Right.
But sometimes the best model available in that framework still isn't that good.
Right.
Like, so maybe the best model is like a 50-50 chance. You're like, okay, I'm predicting these things, and you start to realize that over time, like, if you're trying to like create a model that predicts if a coin's going to be heads or tails, which is like, we know that's like a dumb thing. It's like, well, it's just going to end up being 50-50, right? But the more you test it, the more you realize that the real relationship there is that 50-50 chance. And so, like, you're like, sweet, we found, like, as we get more data, like, from what we're looking at, this is the best we can do, right? And a couple different ways to, like, to deal with that. One of the ways is, like, just look at different input variables. In different, like, maybe you're looking at the wrong problem. Like, okay, this isn't really helping us predict, because, like, the more we research into it, the more we just realize it's a 50-50 shot. Let's look at something else. Maybe there's a different relationship we can leverage to get whatever we're trying to get done. Like, why are we even measuring coin flips? Like, why do we care, right? So, like, maybe you just need to, like, switch your mentality. But, like, in a similar vein, it's like the more I look into politics, and the more it's like, and I haven't looked that much, but it's like, it seems like the more and more you look, it's like, well, the best you can do is 30% success, right? Like, the majority of people are going to get screwed by whatever you do. So it's like, and I have a hard time figuring out what to do in those situations. And so I don't think I would enjoy being a politician, because it's like, well, I don't want to make these decisions.
You know,
I don't know anybody who does. And maybe that's selfish of me, but I just don't think I would do a good job, because like that's a hard decision for me to make, and then I would get like, I would take me too long to make decisions, and I would just be like, I don't know what to do. And then over time, they're like, you got to do something. Come on, let's, and you're like, so.
What's something that with your data science background, like what's something you want to apply that in, like a field of interest?
A field of interest?
Yeah. I know you've been doing a few things. I know you're interning at a law firm, right? That was one of the things.
I was doing a law firm. Now I'm at a medical clinic. So, yeah, medical clinics. So both of those have been good. The most interesting to me personally has been these companies like Databricks, or Databricks just acquired recently Mosaic, and that, like, a lot of what they can do is like an aspect, and I've been looking into it a little bit, is like they contract out with companies and set up frameworks to use big data, whatever information they have, to better, provide their product, right? So whether that's like doing some small machine learning operation things, or like bring in an in-house LLM chatbot thing that they can, it's inside their own system, so they're not, if you have to be HIPAA compliant or whatever else you need to be, right? If you're medical or you're legal or whatever, like it's in-house, and you're not using like ChatGPT and then putting people's like, personal data in, and you're like a realtor, and you're like, oh crap, I just put all my clients' personal information for general use. It's like all these different machine learning, AI, deep learning, like
that's probably changing the
data
game
things.
Quite a bit, all the AI stuff.
Yeah, they like essentially one of the things they can do is like contract out to develop these like devices for different companies. Like, oh, what do you want? Sick. Come in, we'll consult, we'll figure out what you need, we'll set up a framework, set it up for you. So I think that would be, for me, the most interesting, because I do like working in specific fields, and like early on I might just go for like a specific company, but I think it'd be cool generally just like to know data science, and then like be able to contract out with different companies and be like, oh, here's what you're doing with your industry, like let's see what we can do to help you out.
Because there's probably a lot of fields that, they don't... Well, that's the thing, is like... Because I've got this... at some point, I'll have to have you take a look at it, but I've got this, like... It's an app that me and another person developed. But basically, it has a lot to do with, like, behavioral science.
Okay.
And people's, like, emotional, mental well-being. And basically, in some ways, how it works is, like, they use it on a daily basis. They're able to kind of monitor and track how they're feeling that day, take notes, and then there's like things that it sends them to help them like improve upon that. And so like we're working with one group right now. I won't say who, but I'll tell you after. But we're working with one group right now to get that like inside their organization. And my point to them was like they work with a lot of young people, and so the struggle that we've seen that they have is that they keep having young people who are dealing with these type of issues, but they don't know really how to like monitor it or help it. It's kind of like overwhelming almost. Like they have too many, then they can really help and all that stuff, right? And so I was telling him, I was like, yeah, if you really had them utilizing this resource, this tool, the data collection back, you can then start to monitor and see, okay, like this group, we're noticing trends with this group and like the type of person that deals with this. And then also, this area of the country that we serve, they seem to be really dealing with this issue. And we can give them better resources for that issue,
Gotcha.
So it's interesting, like when you talk about just the data, like I think there's a lot of groups and like companies and people that need that data to really help them, but they don't know anything about that stuff.
No, it's true. Yeah, it would be, I don't know, I think it would be super useful because with the way the world's going, people are collecting more and more information, and they don't know what to do with it.
Dude, that's kind of like an unspoken currency, honestly. Like, people don't think about it, but, like, that's become such a huge, like, data collection and data usage. And
right.
I mean, it's, like, worth billions.
What are you going to do with it? Like, I don't know. Hire somebody who knows how it works, right?
Right.
So, yeah, this is me. I graduate in December, and then probably I'm looking at some grad schools, just, like, learning what are the assumptions you're using when you start using certain modeling techniques to, like, predict things or to analyze things.
Yeah.
And you just get, like, I don't know, because there's different levels of using data.
Mm-hmm.
There's, like deep learning, like neural networks, the stuff they use in, like, ChatGPT, like diffusion models that, like, do image creation off of text. Those require, like, a very large amount of data, right?
Yeah.
And so, like, you need, like, it's a big machine, and you need, like, gallons and gallons of diesel fuel to make this thing work, right? So it's, like, that doesn't really work if you only have, like, if you're, like, a small business who has just this and this and this, right? So it's, like, we need to, like, cut some aspects of that out, go into some more, like, just straight-up machine learning, maybe a little bit more hard-coded heuristic modeling. But then with that, like, you can't just, like, dump it in and see if it works. Like, you have to understand a little bit more of, like, what assumptions you're operating under.
Right.
And so if you look at the data, you know the assumptions, you can create the right modeling techniques. And that's just, like, it's, like, generally useful for pretty much everybody, right? So I feel like if I can be that guy to help them navigate that.
Right. Because most people don't understand anything about it.
Yeah, they don't know what to do. But so I'm currently, this summer, I'm working part-time for my internship.
Yeah.
And then I'm taking one class that's it. So the majority of the summer for me is just going to be looking into
Hot boy summer? Is that where we're going?
Oh,
we're going
no,
vacation
no.
mode?
No, we're doing like the opposite. We're staying.
You're like, you can catch me at the beach.
So I'll be there. No, Venice Beach. No,
catch me in Costa Rica.
I'll be sailing down the Gulf of Mexico. Yeah.
Collecting data on.
Yes, on the wind patterns and the waves and the different types of sunscreen. How bad I sunburn, know.
Which one's more effective?
And you best believe I need sunscreen. So I'll be a great test subject. I need that. I'll do like one arm with one sunscreen. Well, no.
Daily results posted on your travel channel.
Yeah. Just like look, like rate the shade of red that my arms are and see how much damage is done.
Scientifically, how to survive your summer. That's your.
That'd be good. Yeah, I get like tested for cancer every like 2 weeks because I skin cancer.
Vacation ends early. No, that's good.
Yeah. It's like the guy who like tried to live off McDonald's for a month, and they're like, "You gotta quit, man. You're gonna die," or whatever. Yeah, crazy story, but they would do that to me. They're like, you can't just be like leaving yourself out in this exposure for days on days, and be like
just being baked out there.
Yeah.
What? Oh yeah. Okay.
Oh yes.
Yeah. But anyways, you're saying about your summer plans.
Oh, I'm gonna be like nerding out this summer. I've been looking into like, because like school teaches you some aspects. At least the degree I've been in teach me some aspects of the math and some aspects of like coding.
Yeah.
But I've been looking into a lot of like what are like people who are hiring actually want. What skills do you need? What are like some things that we don't talk about in school, like how to effectively use like GitHub and frameworks like Django to actually like work on projects and create like actual functioning things. Because like computer programs don't exist in a vacuum. It's not like I can just set up this thing and like this neat little toy problem I can like sort like a list of numbers and be like, oh look, this is so useful. Somebody take my little project. Right? It's like you have to like create things that fit into systems.
Right.
And
like a
like
formula almost?
Yeah. And it's like Facebook, for example, like where is Facebook actually housed? Like what's going on there? Like
Right.
what is the framework that sets up? Like you have all your users, you have algorithms that feed them videos and more users they should connect with, and then
Right.
like interactions and how do you like
How does that connect with the algorithm? That
Yeah,
then,
like,
yeah.
where's that happening and how is it happening? Like that's stuff that I've been looking into. Even just these few days that summer started for me. So
Yeah.
hopefully by the end of the summer I'll have like a much better picture of like what's actually going on technologically, so that I can like better insert myself into what roles I want to play
Right.
and
right.
like interviews that I can like prep for and jobs I can get. So
That's when we'll get you back on. Be like, okay, what
you've been learning?
you been learning?
Yeah.
How's the system?
I should have more knowledge for you soon enough.
Good.
But, yeah.
So is AI going to screw us all? Are we in danger?
In what way?
You know, you hear the typical, you know, like AI will
Take all our jobs.
Yeah, like take all our jobs, but even like, you know, eventually progress, because like even from where
To the point where
started,
it'll just be like sentient and like take over the world.
yeah, or like we're just like non-needed. You know, we're non-essential pieces.
So no AI has original thought yet.
Yeah,
Like self-producing. Like so that isn't coming for a while.
that'd be tough, I would assume,
Yeah. That's like
because we can't even figure out how we get our own thoughts.
right. I mean, I have my own personal take on it. Yeah, I'm a religious religious boy.
Yeah,
you
give
know.
me your personal take.
I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, so I believe in the soul and the body, and
Yeah.
the spirit and the body makes the soul, I guess.
That's the one that always gets me whenever I start thinking, like, you know, you hear these kind of theories about AI or like even like aliens, which I heard a weird theory on that. We'll talk about that in a second, but that I had never thought about, because you hear about like aliens and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I've always been like that'd be cool, but also my issue with aliens was like, yeah, but like from a religious standpoint, it doesn't like click with me. So I'm like, why would there be like, I believe there's other life forms out there, sure. Like, I think God created other life forms. But I'm like, yeah, if you just think about, like, you know, the second coming and the religious side of it, I'm like, it doesn't make sense there'd be, like, an alien population comes in and then, like, you know, I just don't think that makes sense. But same with the AI. You look at it, you're like, okay, like, why would... So God's going to create allow an AI life form that is smarter than everybody else, is, like a god to us? Like, I don't think he's going to do that, you know?
No, yeah, that's a fair point. That would be that'd be interesting to digest from a religious point of view, like what's happening.
Maybe that's our version of the Tower of Babel. You know what I'm saying? AI is our new tower.
I may or may not be working on that. That's awkward. Hopefully it's not, because I don't want to be confounded. But no, what I see is AI is like, the concern is like technology develops over time, and if you would have like put a personal computer from like 2005 in front of somebody in like the late 50s, they're like
Mind blowing.
it's like, you know, it's like you showed them like Google Maps that we had on our phones like 5-10 years ago. Nobody was like worried Google Maps is going to take all of our jobs, but you know, all the map makers are like, oh crap, man,
Right.
I mean, whatever, you know. But that's a bad example, because by that point we were printing maps.
Yeah.
So
that makes sense though.
But yeah,
I
like
get your point.
the example I use when I'm talking to people usually is like the Industrial Revolution. Like the landscape changed a lot for what jobs are available. And the Industrial Revolution wasn't quite as bad for humans, because most people, like, other jobs were created, but there were people who didn't get their jobs back.
Yeah.
And in the Industrial Revolution, the main thing that didn't get its job back was the horse.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
The reason why that's not the perfect example for AI
and,
is because the people losing their jobs are people, not horses. Like, if a horse, I was like, oh man, like we don't have enough jobs for horses. That's like, nobody's actually like, oh man, dang it.
Except for that cotton gin, you know.
Right.
That took a few jobs.
So,
I'm just kidding.
okay, so
I'm just kidding. I wiped out a few.
Well, no, but like the thing is like the jobs were gone, but the people could get different jobs. Like you lose your job and you can work in the factory, right?
Yeah.
The horse lost its job. A lot of jobs that a horse lost, but nobody's like rehiring horses to do something else, right?
Start riding them in races,
right?
and stuff.
Which was already. I mean, I imagine it was already happening, but like the demand for horses went down significantly, right? And like everybody who lost their jobs was able to get to different things. And with the AI revolution, like, you could say like a lot of people lose their jobs and a lot of people go on to different things. I'd be curious to see who's the horses scenario, where it's like the people lose their jobs, but they there's not another job for them to get, right? There's certain skills that are going to become
more valuable,
right? And there's a lot of like technical degrees are going down in, well, they're not going down in popularity, but they're predicted to go down in utility. Right? They're going to say like, hey, like it's cool you got a CS degree, but that's not super important. ChatGPT can code better than you ever could even want to.
Yeah.
But so like soft skills are all of a sudden that much more important because AI doesn't necessarily have soft skills in the same way.
Yeah.
It's that and the other. So I'd be curious to see. I do think that the landscape is changing. It's changing faster than any of us have ever seen in our personal lives.
Right.
I don't know. I imagine faster than it ever has. Like even the Industrial Revolution wasn't nearly as fast as this, right?
No.
Like that was decades. This is what like ChatGPT dropped 2017 is when it first like kind of hit, and it's like 2024, 7 years later.
It's like way bigger.
Oh yeah, it's obnoxious how fast it is, and it's just like going faster and faster and faster. If you even compare like what was happening in 2021 to what's happening now with like Sora or any of these like video generation things, it's like yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, and then like you got like actors who you have to get like licensing done because like you could logically like just like take a couple pictures of Will Smith and a voice sample that's like 3 to 10 minutes long,
and just do it.
And you can generate Will Smith in any movie.
See, that's kind of that's one of the things I think people get freaked out about is like, how do you know what's real or AI generated? Or
I don't have an answer for that. I'll be honest with you. That's kind of crazy.
That one gets a little,
especially with like presidents and stuff.
Right. When you start thinking about like world leaders or propaganda or things like that, you know, obviously are real issues that we see in the world. You know, people trying to lie or, you know, help people believe things that maybe aren't true.
Right.
Which I guess is the same thing as a lie. Now that I said that, long-winded. Why?
There's a lie, then there's a lie.
A thing that people don't want to believe.
A thing that's not true.
You're like, yeah, the same. But that's, you know, that's where it's like it's kind of freaky.
Yeah. So I don't know the answer, and I don't know what's gonna happen. Yeah. And nobody does. But I guess what I think is, like, there's a lot of people who like push back against it and say like, hey, like let's like this, that, and the other.
Right.
And maybe this is poor connection, but I think of like prohibition, for example. Like if it's legal, then you can regulate it, like alcohol.
Right.
If it's illegal, then all of a sudden it's uncontrolled and happening in the background.
Yeah.
And I'd much rather, and you have your conspiracy theories of how much control and like awareness we actually have, but I'd much rather at least the AI development seem more in the front than like all happening on like a black market side where like all these people are developing AI where we don't know what's happening like at all.
Right.
I'd much rather it like be regulated, be happening in like open source, like OpenAI and Microsoft and stuff, and all these other companies that are smaller. Like they're doing a lot of open source development and things where it's like people are available, people are in, like it's not completely shrouded and hidden. So it's like, and then as things are coming, like add regulations to keep things like safe, but don't set it up in a spot where it's like we're just not going to do AI because AI is going to ruin us all.
Right.
And then it's like, well, then all this stuff's going to happen. Like it's going to be developed one way or the other.
Yeah.
The cat's out of the bag. The projects are happening.
Yep.
I would say I'd rather embrace it and move forward with it than just like avoid it and pretend it's not there until it screws us, you know?
Right.
So.
Well, and you see a lot of cool things that it does do. I mean, just the fact I was on there today. You know, I was writing a grant for this nonprofit that I like co-founded, and I was writing this grant, and I was like, you know, I'm just putting things in there and prompts in there to help me like write it faster because I'm like, there's no point in me trying to write something that it can write 10 times better and more efficiently and you know, saves me time. So that's like one of the things too. I think like from like a business standpoint, there's a lot of cool things that it can do, like expediting projects, you know, writing things. That is the one weird thing. I think a lot of people thought like when AI or artificial intelligence came along, it was going to be, you know, wiping out some of the like blue collar type work, you know, like plumbers and, you know, I can't think of anything else. Plumbers, you know, roofers, things like that. Mechanics. And it's like the opposite now.
It's white collar.
Yeah, it's like the bougie stuff.
It's like, yeah, you do, like, there's a lot of value in a lawyer, but, like, long term, I could see a lot of, especially with all the stuff that's, like, settled and things, like, you're paying hundreds of dollars for 30 minutes with a guy in an office who can just, like, create a little document for you.
Right.
Right? And it's like, some other lawyer could do some sort of disruption model and just like offer
service,
a slightly worse service for significantly less the price. 70% the service for 1% the price. It's like, well, of course I'm going to at least take a shot at this, you know.
We should cut that out. You just gave away a great business idea there.
I don't think I'm the first one to think of it. Then there's like legal issue with it too, where it's like,
it's like a legit
AI generated, whatever. But it's like, I don't know. I think there's probably I think there's legal pathways that you could develop to.
I mean, there's a good argument there. I mean, if it's pulling from the internet has all the information of the bar and law degrees and everything you need to pass.
I mean, there's that, or you could just have like, it could use as like idea generator or like a document generator for. Like, you could draft something for, like, someone who has a JD to look at. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so it's, like, it's still, like, if they look through the whole thing and they see it and it's, like, some document generator. If you're, like, trying to create something for, like, an estate.
Right.
You know, there's estate planning, this, that, and the other. Like, it could work. And obviously, like, there's a concern of, like, well, if they're just generating it, like, who's to say they aren't just going to, like, grab it and just send it in without even looking at it? It's like, well, yeah, then there's malpractice and this, that.
Right.
You know, there's things. And obviously, I wouldn't want an AI developing, like, litigation.
Yeah,
that would be troublesome. There have been some issues where they found lawyers who are using AI to develop their cases, and like,
what were their thoughts on that?
Well, sometimes they're like the AI referenced cases that didn't actually happen. They're like, oh, this decision and this thing, and it's like because AI, the large language models, the way they're developed, the ChatGPTs, the generative pre-trained transformers, they're predicting what something would look like based on what they've seen in the past. Like, this is kind of how this is structured. So they develop, like, if you were trying to make this point, this is how you would make this point with a case that looked like this. The case didn't actually happen, but it creates a case that looks plausible. So, like, it looks totally fine, but then you look up that case, it never existed, you know?
Right.
A lot of times
creating a case based off other information of cases.
Right. And you're like, well, why didn't you tell me when you're predicting something and when it's, like, actually legit? It's like, well, the thing is everything it produces
it thinks is legit.
Is predicted.
Right.
So it can't tell you what's predicted and what's legit because it's just like, oh, I have this knowledge base and now I'm going to predict what this should look like.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, well, then what'd you predict? Well, technically all of it. But it's like, early on there was issues with like URLs too where it's like, it would create a URL.
Right.
And it's like, this is what, like, the URL looks plausible, you know?
Right.
It's like the blah, blah, www.https, whatever, blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
Looks like some URL that would take you to the proper, you know, web page that talks about the scientific process it's referencing or the law, the settlement or whatever. But it's just predicting a URL that looks like URLs that are used in that context. Yeah. And so it's like not even. I mean, nowadays that's not as much of an issue,
right?
But like early on, that was a bigger thing, and then I feel like it's illustrative of like how the rest of you can get like these fake cases. They're called hallucinations when. LLM creates something that's like not legit. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How's that? The one that's weird to me is like I kind of understand how the chat bots work, right? You type it in, gives you a response back. The ones that are like crazy to me are the like the video ones or the art ones where you like give it a prompt and it designs
creates a picture.
Yeah, like an illustration.
So I don't know how the video ones work. I haven't looked into those specifically. Mm-hmm. But like a lot of the image generation ones are called diffusion models. Mm-hmm. And I acknowledge that my explanation here is incorrect. It's not complete, but from what I understand, it's like you have an image, and then there's this equation you can apply to different pixels of an image to like make it into static. And like it's called I think it's called the diffusion equation or something along those lines.
Yeah.
But essentially, like you can create static, but then you can shuffle the static around and then apply the inverse of that equation, and come back to the image. But if you're rebuilding it from different static, then it creates a different image.
So are they taking like other images and reshaping it basically? Is that what it is?
More or less. It can kind of like document different, like you have an image and you give it like a caption or a description.
Sure.
And it'll like put it in certain like areas, like it'll associate certain images for certain reasons, and so when you create an image, it'll like take an amalgamation of those images, and then, essentially combines them into an idea, an equation that can apply to some apply to different static images, and like create plausible images.
Have you seen the ones where it's like, I don't know what it was called. I was on like there was like a Discord one that I joined, but basically you'd put it in, you'd give it like just a random prompt. You'd be like, give me cats, happy in outer space, and then would just make like the craziest like illustration
of cats happy in outer space.
Yeah. And so
I
was always like, especially where you're not even giving it like a picture to go off of, is it taking all these like different images they have of cats and outer space and different things?
It's taking the stuff that's like, what's the similarities between all these cat images?
Okay.
What's the similarities between all these outer space images? Now create something that follows that pattern and follows this pattern together.
Huh. That's crazy.
Now, I would hesitate to quote this on your podcast, like this whole section we talked about, because it could be pretty wrong. I haven't
That's okay.
This is just like word of mouth explanations I've received.
Yeah.
I should know better because I do actually work with a guy who does diffusion modeling for research at ASU, but
Really?
I just help him like in the back end. Mm-hmm. I just help him like essentially annotate his data, help him like with the captions and things and verify if things are correct because he's trying to do some stuff with spatial awareness of diffusion models where it's like if you ask for pineapple on a table versus under a table to the left of a table to the right of a table, like making sure the model puts the pineapple in the right spot in the picture with reference to other objects in the picture.
Yeah.
But I just help him in the back end. I'm not doing anything like glamorous for that. I'm literally just like he generated a bunch of images, has a bunch of stuff, and then generated captions for them, and I'm verifying if the captions are correct. Mm-hmm. And then he can put them into his model and, try different things.
So, actually, this next section might be long. I got to take a pee. Do you mind if we take a quick pause?
Because I had a second. So the diffusion models, at least in that small couple paragraphs I read, are pretty much that idea. You add, it's called Gaussian noise.
Yeah.
So you take an image, you add the Gaussian noise into it, and like if you imagine like a TV back in the day, where you were on a channel that wasn't being broadcast, it's like it turns into like that, and then you can essentially create more images by reversing that equation you use to add the Gaussian noise on a different set of TV static. It's crazy that it works.
Yeah,
there's so many like weird things. Like the thing that gets me about a lot of deep learning is the fact like the randomest things that work and. Like a lot of it, maybe that part isn't necessarily black box, but there are a lot of aspects of large language models and things that like to a degree are just black box. Like it works and we don't know necessarily why it works.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's necessarily an example of that. Maybe somebody's smart enough to know how that works.
But like how did they come up? Like how are the...
It's crazy.
Yeah, it's like how's that... Yeah, we're recording, but yeah, sure.
Yeah, I know. You can cut this out.
Oh, yeah. I'll just edit that out later. Thanks, Mitch. Terrible assistant.
Oh,
You are terrible. Okay, get out of here. Yeah, it is crazy. It's like I've wondered that sometimes, especially like TV in general, like just that process of like how are you displaying an image across, like how are you displaying a signal and into an image across.
Yeah.
No,
it is nuts.
Like,
with sound, with all this
sound.
stuff.
Yeah. How is it that I can look at my phone and there's a camera there and it will show you that same image? Also, it's like...
Yeah, it's nuts.
I don't know who's figuring that out,
Some smart people.
Apparently. But, what I was going to ask you right before I went on that little break was quantum computing.
Mm.
Like, what's the... Because you hear that word tossed around, and I'm always like, I have no idea what the difference is. Like, what happens here could be quantum computing in my mind. Like, I wouldn't know.
From what I understand about quantum computing, and mind you, like this is completely out of my realm. I don't know anything about it, but quantum computing is like leveraging, because like quantum mechanics, from what I understand, has this. And feel free to roast me, all you people on Reddit. And everybody who knows what this actually is going to be like, he's wrong. He's just wrong. But, so, like, have you heard of, like, the double slit experiment?
No.
Where they, like, launched electrons through, like, a piece. I don't know if it was, like, metal or what it was, but it had, like, 2 slits in it.
Yeah.
And it, like, behaved differently depending on if they, like, observed the electrons or didn't. Like, the way it was, like, distributed on... They'd, like, launch electrons at this thing through 2 holes...
Was it like interacting with like the people's
Like it was the idea that like once you observed what was happening, then like it would change the way it behaved. And if you weren't looking at it,
That's crazy.
I don't know. That's the way it was presented to me in like sophomore year chemistry of high school, right? So there's explanations to it now.
I'm glad there's some schools that are teaching something of value because I never learned about that. But
anyway, well, so yeah, pre-AP chemistry,
Hey,
10th
okay.
grade, Miss Perez, like
Shout out.
she was getting. She had like a little.
she knew what was up.
She had a tattoo on the back of her neck that was like
Was she kind of
it's
bad?
like a nucleus. No.
Oh, no. You saw a tattoo, you're like, hey, we see you.
No. She had like a pixie cut. That's why you knew she had a tattoo on the back of her neck.
Oh,
She had
I see.
like her hair was like pretty short. Yeah,
Yeah.
It was super short. But anyways,
You
it
always
was like
wonder
it
with
was
the-
like a nucleus. It was like an atom.
Oh, like the ones that like you see in
You can
like,
see
Jimmy
like
Neutron.
the protons and the Jimmy
Jimmy
Neutron
Neutron
type
thing.
bit with the
Maybe she was
electrons
just-
going around, the neutrons in there.
Turns out she's just a Jimmy Neutron fan. She knew.
Maybe I'd never asked. I wonder if people had asked her, but
I always wonder with the women who do pixie cuts. You always like scratch your head a little bit. You're like, what's wrong? What's off?
when she was old enough, she kind of like.
Like she may work.
Well, it's like when you're old enough. I feel
Dude, I
like
think
when
you-
the
I think
grandmas
you kinda thought
get
she's
old.
bad. I think that's what you're trying
This
to
is
say.
not true. No, I'm just saying that like old, like significantly older women, like 60, 70, like 70s plus.
Yeah.
Like retirement age. It just makes sense to have a pixie cut because like your hair is thinning. It's lower maintenance. She wasn't that old, but she was definitely older. She had to be
She was
like close to her
pre-gaming.
60s. Yeah,
She's
she was
prepping.
just vibing,
Yeah.
She didn't care. She's like, I'm just cut my hair. It's easier.
Yeah,
Low
just
maintenance. I don't
shave
blame
it
her.
off.
I mean, my hair's pretty well. It's longer than it has been in a long time, but
Yeah.
it's usually
Yeah, it looks good.
short, slow maintenance.
Yeah, I know. It's been growing out mine, and I'm like, I like it long. Don't get me wrong, but it's hard to really do anything with it.
Yeah, it just kind of does what it does, and you're
Yeah,
like,
you're
there
like,
you
oh
go.
yeah, it looks okay today.
It's just it's
Yeah.
like I should take a shower, and that'll
I only wash my hair once a week now.
really.
Yeah,
Is that the way to go?
Um,
I wash mine every day, so
I feel like my hair is because I was like a little worried. Like I felt like mine was getting a little thinner and just wasn't as like healthy, which could have been a variety of things. Because I also did like, I don't know, yeah. So I stopped. Like I asked my hair lady, and I was like, hey, what's the like what should I do to help my hair? I want it to be thicker. So she gave me some products, but then I've just been only washing it like once a week, and I think it works. It gets a little gross as it starts getting near that 1 week mark to where I'm like, it's time. But I also, when it gets this length, I don't use a ton of product, which helps. Because I feel like that's when my hair feels gross, when I have a bunch of product in it.
yeah, that makes sense.
It
If you put too much,
feels sticky.
yeah,
You're like, and it clumps. So it's just,
yeah. So
yeah, I get that. Well, it's been fun.
it's been good.
Yeah. Rewound it back. Will part 2.
Part deuce.
Yeah. We'll get a part 3 once you, we'll see what's
Yeah,
post-summer Will is.
I'll chop it up this summer and
You'll actually be like
yeah.
part robotic.
No, yeah, I'll have one of the Neuralink chips
Yeah,
in my brain.
you'll have
you
it
know?
integrated.
I'll have like after 3 months, I'll have like 9 years work experience, like at
Yeah.
corporate level of Google.
Mm-hmm.
I'll have like a wife and 3 kids, and you're just like, what happened, Will? And I'm
That'll
like,
be
let
crazy.
me tell you the story.
I like how I advanced myself through AI.
Yeah.
It's the chip, dude. It advanced you. That's what
Yeah.
that's what it would have been.
7 a.m. I woke up 3 hours before I went to bed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You actually like turn into like David Goggins. You know?
You see me, I'm always just doing pull-ups.
Yeah.
Or running, ultra marathons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, just screaming into the camera at people for
Yeah, I
motivation.
buy a new pair of shoes and try to see how long it takes for the shoes to fall apart on one single run. That's it.
Just go until they break.
300 miles in. Just,
Dude, I don't know how anyone would do that. I'd rather cut my feet off than do that.
yeah.
Claim I was a paraplegic or
amputee.
something. Yeah, amputee. It's like I can't. Sorry.
Tough. This is crazy how this happened. Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll run it back another time.
Sounds good. See ya.